There's a quiet tension that settles in when you walk into a room and realize you're more prepared than the people who outrank you. You know the work, you understand the problem, you see the solution, but the room doesn't see you. Eyes skip past you, decisions are made without you, and competence becomes something you have to downplay rather than contribute. It's the moment when your insight could help, but speaking up feels risky. So you sit there, fully capable, while the space around you treats you like you're lucky just to have a seat. Being competent in a room that undervalues you is uncomfortable because it forces you into a contradiction. You're expected to contribute just enough to appear engaged, but not so much that you disrupt the existing hierarchy. If you speak up too confidently, you risk being labeled arrogant or difficult. If you stay quiet, your silence is interpreted as lack of insight or ambition. This tension isn't just about skills, it's about perception. Rooms often reward familiarity over merit, or social comfort over actual capability. When you're new, young, or simply not part of the informal network, competence threatens the unspoken balance. People protect their positions, they guard credit, they defend tenure, and your presence exposes what they don't want acknowledged. That ability doesn't always align with authority. So you learn to measure your voice. You learn to watch the room before entering the conversation, and you carry the weight of knowing you could elevate the work while recognizing that the room isn't ready to accept that yet. Picture the common meeting where a problem has been circulating for days. You've already mapped out the solution in your mind, the risks, the steps, the outcome. You wait for the right moment to speak, but before you do, someone with more tenure offers a watered down version of your idea. The room lights up, heads nod, compliments follow. You know you could clarify the gaps and strengthen the approach, but you also know the reaction would be different if the insight came from you. So you stay quiet, not because you lack conviction, but because you recognize that in this room, competence isn't the currency, familiarity is. The turning point is recognizing that being undervalued isn't always a reflection of your ability. It's often a reflection of the room's limitations. Competence doesn't need immediate validation to be real. Your understanding, preparation, and clarity don't disappear just because others fail to acknowledge them. Instead of seeing the room's dismissal as a verdict, you can view it as information about the culture, about the hierarchy, about the insecurities at play, and about what contribution is actually welcome here. This shift moves the weight off your shoulders. It reminds you that your value isn't defined by who notices it, and that restraint is not the same as powerlessness. Sometimes, the most grounded position is to let the room reveal itself and decide whether it's worth shaping or simply navigating. In a room that undervalues you, the instinct is often to prove yourself, to speak more, argue harder, or force recognition. But competence doesn't need spectacle to be effective. Your goal isn't to outperform the room, it's to contribute in a way that protects your energy and preserves your credibility. Start small and intentional. Offer clarity, not volume. Speak when you can anchor the conversation, when your contribution adds direction rather than noise. Let your preparation show in precision, a concise point, a grounded observation, a well timed question that shifts the discussion towards substance. You're not trying to reclaim the space by force. You're demonstrating value in a way that doesn't threaten the room's ego. Over time, patterns emerge. People begin to notice who brings steadiness rather than friction. And if the room refuses to change, your restraint tells you something equally as important. This may be a place where your competence is better spent elsewhere. Rooms that undervalue competence aren't anomalies. They're products of how social structures protect comfort over improvement. In many workplaces and institutions, Authority is granted through tenure, networks, and familiarity, not necessarily through capability. Challenging that hierarchy, even unintentionally, can be perceived as disruption rather than contribution. This is why competent people often feel like outsiders in spaces that claim to want innovation or progress. The system wants the appearance of excellence, but not always the discomfort of genuine competence. Real insight asks questions, it exposes weaknesses, it reshapes direction, and that threatens those who have built security around perception rather than performance. Understanding this isn't about cynicism, it's about clarity. When you see the social mechanics at play, you stop internalizing the dismissal. You realize the room's response says less about your ability and more about its maturity. And that awareness gives you the freedom to choose how or whether to invest yourself in spaces that can't yet recognize the value you carry. Being competent in a room that undervalues you isn't proof that you lack worth. It's often proof that the room isn't built to recognize it yet. You don't need to contort yourself to fit a space that asks you to shrink. Clarity lets you engage without eroding yourself, contribute without performing, and decide where your effort is truly respected. If this resonates with you, explore more of our work on navigating modern social spaces with awareness and dignity.